Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, good afternoon. We'll date this, baby. 19th day of May in the Lord's year 2015. J. Michael McCoy along with Tom Coates on Max World Live, which is our Tuesday edition of The View from a Pew. We talk politics. Stuff you need to know, because you're not going to hear it anywhere else. Well, you'll hear it on Steve Dace, so you'll hear it there. And you'll hear it on Jay Sekulow. And I guess you'll hear it all over this radio station, depending on who you listen to. But you won't get it on the mainstream media. You'll get it on Fox, but even they are limited to how much garbage they can spew. I'm sorry, how much information they can give on the garbage that Hillary Clinton spews. But what's going on today?
Well, I think it's fair to say also that we give them more of a local flavor on politics, Mac, than the ones you just mentioned. Certainly Jay Sekulow doesn't, and right. I think Steve Dace is really more looked at on a national basis, doesn't really do much with the locals. So I would say that maybe that might differentiate us a bit, wouldn't you?
You and I are the only true local talk show that can speak our mind.
There you go.
That has no boss upstairs, has no advertiser telling us they'll poll, have no government officials threatening them. We're it.
Yeah, that's right.
Because your wife isn't going to care, and that's the only boss you got, right?
She never listens to me, whether we're talking on the air or whether I'm face-to-face.
Yeah, right. I know. I resemble that remark. So what did I hear? Hillary had the worst day ever?
That's what they called it. What they called it.
What'd she do, or what happened?
Well, I think she was exposed further on the... I mean, you're going to lose track here real quick, but the latest scandal to hit the Clinton campaign is this email scandal that apparently was broken by the New York Times, although they didn't really highlight what I think is the main takeaway on this, which was the fact that she had sworn up and down that she did not have anything but the one email. And now they find out she had a second personal email that she was receiving and transmitting on.
Whoa. You mean a second device?
A second email. and
a second email account?
Yes.
Not a second email, but a second email account,
that's
which could have hundreds and hundreds of emails.
Exactly. And now a judge, I'm trying to get to it, but I'm having a hard time getting my
That's all right.
thing to work here. But the HROD17 at clintonemail.com is the second discovered email. Now, again, I've been busy today. I really haven't had a chance to dig into this, Mac, but I know it's all over Drudge. It's kind of that's the service I'm looking at right now. In this bunch of stories, and there's a bunch of them, they're saying a judge just ordered today a rolling release of Clinton State Department emails. So I guess we're going to learn all the details about her yoga classes and Chelsea's baby and all of this stuff that she's been hiding for so long. This is Mac, and there was another one. And so much of this stuff centers around Iowa. There was a report out today. A British news team has been tracking her. Apparently, this is not just state news. This is not just national. This is international news, who our next president's going to be. And they follow it like they do, maybe some international soap opera. And so this British news team was tracking her on a secondary highway. Now, again, I just heard a little bit of it, but they were trying to keep up, and this is consistent now, with her. And they traded in the Scooby wagon for something else. They're driving around in something else now. Lord only knows what. Anyway, this is consistent. They showed a picture and they posted it up online of their speedometer, and they were going just under 100 miles an hour on a secondary highway here in Des Moines. I mean, in Iowa. So this is consistent. I know a woman that was asked to drive in her motorcade back when she was running back in the '08 election. Now, the woman that I know is a nice lady. She's a hairdresser. We'll say no more about who she is, but she's no more qualified. I could reach out here and pull one of these women walking by on the skywalk randomly, and they would be asked or more qualified to be driving in a motorcade as she would be. And she was having to drive in excess of 90 miles an hour to keep up with this. My point here, now you can say, oh, big deal. Well, I think it is another small window into a character that feels absolutely entitled to do whatever they want to do, whether it's taking $500,000 from you as a corporate sponsor or a government entity to give a bogus speech somewhere that nobody cares much about Hillary Clinton giving a speech. She's a boring speaker. Bill Clinton isn't much better these days, but this is another window into a mindset. Oh, here's a way that we can scam big dollars. I mean, they've taken their net worth from very little. Now, she said they were flat broke when they left the White House. We know that's bull hockey.
Except for the silverware in her pocket.
Yeah. But we also know that they have now amassed estimated net worth about $135 million. It is not any secret on how that they've done it, Mac. You're a person of influence. Let's say that you get lucky and you get elected to be, some high office tomorrow.
Like dog catcher?
Yeah. And then you set up a foundation. And then that foundation ostensibly is going to do great charitable work, right? And this is what George Stephanopoulos, which we can talk about, said. Well, I was interested in helping the poor and the needy all over the country. Stephanopoulos, who, by the way, signed onto a $100 million contract with ABC over the next 7 years, so he's no poor urchin either.
No.
But he said he wanted to do that kind of work. Okay, your foundation ostensibly helps the needy, starving kids in Africa, and you're going to find a cure for herpes or something, and you're going to fund this. Now, that foundation, just by the way, only puts about 10% of the money that they get into their charitable causes.
How did they get away with that? I mean, is it a 501(c)(3)?
It is. I don't know these specific, but let's assume it's even a 501c4 where they can do some lobbying. But it may be a C3. But whatever their classification with the IRS is, you have an expectation when something is set up as a charitable institution that a majority of the money is going to go for charitable causes. In this case, now normally you're looking for 80%, maybe 85% going to that charitable cause. 10%, I'm not making this up, 10% of this Clinton Foundation actually goes to charity. I'm surprised more people aren't blowing up about this. Maybe they just don't know about it. But 10% goes to the charitable cause. 90% goes to, in essence, to the Clintons' pockets, which is how they've made over $100 million net worth. Bill was asked recently he's the only one talking about it. Are you going to continue to do these six-figure speaking engagements? Oh, I've got to continue to pay the bills, as if he's poor out here, with a "we'll work for food" sign, and poor Bill is out here needing to keep the doors open. Good Lord. I mean, the scandals, we could be the rest of the hour and then some, Mac, recounting the scandals going back to Little Rock. But this is a window. When I say, let's go back to my original point, almost 100 miles an hour on a secondary highway in the state of Iowa.
All right.
This is a window into an entitlement mentality.
And I'm sorry, this is just, I've told you about my memory issues. Who's the guy that ran against Branstad for governor?
This last time?
Shaved his mustache off.
Oh, the last time, Jack Hatch.
All right, so Jack Hatch.
He first beat Culver like a rented mule.
Okay.
And then Jack Hatch was a sacrificial lamb.
All right, so Jack Hatch ran a TV commercial talking about how Branstad's car was speeding down the road.
Yes.
All right,
yes.
So I want to hear Jack Hatch's position on Hillary Clinton's car speeding down the road.
At a much faster pace than... See, Branstad, I think, was going a little over 80-some miles an hour, if I recall, on an interstate. This is Hillary Clinton going down almost 100 miles an hour on a secondary highway. This is. Yeah, it's like, yeah, Mac, I was speeding. I was caught some months back going 11 miles an hour over, and a gotcha cam sent me a ticket for it. Yeah, I was speeding. But there's a big difference between going 11 miles an hour over a speed limit, going 56 and a 45, than there is going 100 on a 60. Wow. I mean, we're talking about significant difference. And have you ever heard in this country of Hillary Clinton ever getting a ticket in all the years that
Well, she doesn't even have a driver's license, does she?
Well, she hadn't driven in a. Yeah. It's been a generation since she's driven a car. But I mean, my point is, the people that drive her are intentionally, not just a little bit, but massively breaking the law. And you're right, the Democrats, with their rife hypocrisy, claim that Branstad was doing terrible things. And I think a lot of the politicians out on the roadways when they're trying to get to an appointment do break the speed limit some. Branstad and some of the others have. But to do it to that degree?
Yeah.
I think it's a window into the character of the woman. The difference is, Mac, that Bill Clinton was always viewed by a number in the public's eye. Now, yeah, when he had the Monica Lewinsky scandal, his poll numbers went right down, and they've come back quite a bit now. But he was viewed as likable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
See, and that's the thing that Obama, as bad a leader and as inept and as far left a leader as he is, has skated by on a certain likability factor. I think the less informed, you call them what's your word for them?
Low information
voters. And others tend to go on likability factors. That's what's going to catch Hillary up. I have no doubt. I hope she is their candidate. Doug Gross and I had this discussion last week. He said I had some good points about the animosity between the Obamas and the Clintons, but that she would stay in there like grim death because they are used to scandals. They let them wash off their back, and they go on. Now, I still think a difference is that Obama does not like the Clintons, and that his loyalists in the media are in his camp, like what's breaking in the New York media right now, New York Times. There are people that are going to be targeting Hillary, so it's going to be more difficult for her to skate by. But even so, Doug said she's going to hang in there like grim death. I hope he's right, because I think she is as infinitely a beatable candidate as anybody we've seen, maybe since Michael Dukakis.
Yeah,
I think that she is not likable, and the American people, as they see her more and more, will come to remember, oh, this is why I didn't care much for this woman in the first place. Or they'll be young, and they'll be introduced to her, and they say, she's old, she's not very interesting, all these scandals are swirling around her. I don't find her personality at all appealing to override the other factors. I think if she is their candidate, and we pick any one of the top ones we will talk about, I think we have an overwhelming, not a marginal victory, but an overwhelming victory this 2016. That's my prediction, Mac.
How in the heavens? I don't understand the hypocrisy. I don't understand. You know who I really want? I want a Canadian to come on here and tell me what they're watching, this soap opera they're watching with Obama and Hillary Clinton and the emails and the Benghazi and
I talked to some Canadians just 2 weeks ago in Chicago. When I was in there, we were at this very nice old mansion built in the 1870s, and it's called Biggs. If any of your listening audience enjoys a fine cigar occasionally and you find yourself in downtown Chicago, seek out Biggs. It's a tremendous place.
B-I-G-S?
Yeah, two G's. B-I-G-G-S. It's an old renovated mansion, beautiful, 4-level. I bumped into Roger Goodell there.
Oh, okay.
And I spoke to some Canadians, and when we come back, maybe I'll relate a few of their thoughts on our situation.
Yeah, because I can't imagine how the rest of the country is looking at us right now, and it's so bad. It's like Ben Carson said the other day. We are absolutely we're telling our friends that they're no longer our friends. We're telling our enemies we think that they're better than our friends. What a mess! Who are the Republican candidates, and what about Obama banning military equipment to local police departments? George Orwellish a little bit, isn't it? or Orwellian? We'll talk about it next live on The Truth. Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 21 minutes after the hour, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is View from the Pew Max World Live on the 19th day of May. We are getting closer and closer and closer to the upgrade. We are now being told that it will happen. We'll move studios next week. Is that right, Ryan? Next week, the 30th? 31st, and then there'll probably be a week after that to get the new antenna up. So I don't mean to tease you with this. Maybe you don't care, but I've had too many people at church or at different places come up to me and say, "Oh, I heard your station's getting upgraded, and I pushed the button the other day, and it didn't come in any clearer." Well, what we probably should have done is just shut up and not said anything. But that's too hard because there's this Christmas present under the tree, and I've shaken it. I've smelled it. I'm pretty sure I know what it is. Dad kind of gives me the wink when I say, is this what it is? Are we upgrading signal? Is this going to be the... And then all of a sudden things start to happen and things start to change. It's exciting. It's like, this is not going to make sense to a woman. I understand that. But for men, this is as close to giving birth as there is. To create something from nothing. To create a business, a brick and mortar, to build studios, to build an office. And I felt like this several other times in my life, and I feel like it again today. So we're we're pleased to continue to tell you that we're working on it. All right. We're talking about Hillary Clinton and just the unbelievable hypocrisy. I'm so glad that I don't travel internationally, or that I go to Mexico for vacation, or that I sit in airports next to international travelers, because I don't think I'd wear an American flag. I don't think I'd have I don't want anybody to say, you guys are really screwed up. You lie to each other, and you tell this guy he can't do something, and he's doing it behind his back. And you let one side of the aisle get away with something that the other side of the aisle would never let you get away with. What is wrong with you people? And I'd give them one word. What's that one word? Greed. It's about greed. How does Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton have nothing, open a foundation, and $150 million later? Jeez. I don't know. Let's go to Frank. Frank, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mac?
I'm all right. Maybe you can explain this with your deep wisdom and understanding of the political realm.
But first, he's talking about Christmas presents. I'm probably that proverbial Christmas present that you're going to get to open under your tree when you get your new station up. It's the first.
There we go.
Hey, Tom, I got to tell you, I impressed Mac over the weekend.
Ooh.
I actually asked Ben Carson a question. It wasn't a bloviation. It wasn't a speech.
I have to tell you, I took Frank. I was very leery. It's like taking the kid out in public for the first time. How will he behave? And then it came time for questions, and I'm thinking, oh, crap, here comes this whole long dissertation, and then at the end he'll go, what do you think? But I got to tell you, seriously, he asked probably the best question in the room, and he did it perfectly, and he didn't even have notes. Tell him what you asked him. He did great.
Okay.
Oh, just basically, that the United States is a tinderbox waiting for a spark on the racial component going on in the country, and that the black man has been indoctrinated for the last 50 years, going back to Malcolm X, that the justice system is fundamentally biased against them in this country, and you got a president out there stoking the racial fires, and what are you going to do about it? And he said, well, the first thing we got to do is get Obama out.
Yeah, but I mean, there's more to that question than that. Is that all he said, Frank, or what else?
No, he had about a 5-minute answer.
Okay.
But I don't know if you guys caught it. Our good old friend, the jailbird, Ed Fallon's at it again.
Well, you beat us to it. We were deciding that was certainly one of the things we need to discuss, which makes it a local flavor political show. Tell us what you think on that, Frank.
Well, I didn't. I assume it probably has something to do with the pipeline. But let me lay out this for Hillary here. Now, this woman, everything she drives in, I assume they're going to take a vehicle and they're going to arm it with armor plating, bulletproof glass. It's going to probably get somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 6 miles a gallon. But yet these people continually browbeat the average citizen out there for their carbon footprint. Meantime, this woman jet sets around in helicopters, or from a private jet to a helicopter to a Scooby van. Their entourage of Secret Service detail, their caravans of that is all going to get similar mileage. So, you got poor Ed Fallon, who I will at least admit walks the walk. There's a lot of people that just talk the talk, but Ed actually, hoofs it and gets on his bicycle and walks the walk.
He's he's truly believing, and he's truly drinking the Kool-Aid. There's no question about it, Frank. I've known Ed going back to when he was in the state capitol as a representative, and he rode his bike to the Capitol. I mean, this is a man, you got to at least respect him on that. Now, I think he's absolutely, a green wacko and way off the reservation on anything sensible. But I'm going to give you that. My impression on Ed Fallon, now I'm not saying he's always 100% honest, and I think there's probably opportunities that he takes that I've known a few that he's not Abe Lincoln. No. But I think he's sincerely believing in the cause, and therefore, like any good liberal, the ends justify the means. But
you got Bill and Hillary out there. There was a disclosure here just recently that they made $25 million on roughly 200 speeches. And they're telling you that she's fighting for you. She's fighting for the middle class. They feel your pain. They know all about your mortgages, like most people, have more than one. They know your school loans. They know all this stuff because, gosh, they put Hillary through college. Everybody buys their daughter a $10.5 million apartment. They're just like the average folks. They're just like you and me, and boy, they feel your pain. And they're out there, and this woman has not taken. Ed Henry was reporting on Fox News that she'd done a private speech over the weekend, drove into a private garage in Mason City, and said there was no way that she could even be asked a question. They couldn't get anywhere near to her, close to her, because of the Secret Service detail. She's not answered a legitimate question of anybody since she announced for president, and this is what she's going to do and try to get by with the whole election campaign season, probably up until the debate.
All right. Well, now, Frank, they've elevated themselves to a caviar liberal. Now, but the problem is they're not just like a Ted Kennedy, inherit the money and not really be able to relate to the common person at all. It's how they got the money and the kind of treachery that they exhibited. Now, for instance, let's go back to Benghazi for just a minute, Frank. They knew darn well from the get-go, through the State Department, through their sources, that this was not about a video. It was, now they think it was perhaps in retaliation to a drone strike that took out one of the leaders.
Hold on, can I do my Hillary imitation?
Yeah.
Well, what does it matter?
What difference now does it make? And so they knew that. They had the chutzpah to match up when those coffins came back to this country with the families of the slain, in some cases heroes. A couple of those men went in and did what they could to take out and try to protect those people. And they had the chutzpah to go in and say it was all about a video, and they're going to get the guy that did that video. What? Now, that is a dramatic window into these people's character. Obama and Clinton's, they have no shame. There's no attachment to reality and the truth. Any ends justify the means, and they have such a low opinion of your intelligence, Frank, that they think they can lie with impunity to your face, and you'll believe it. At least
Tom,
enough people will believe it.
You hit the nail right on the head. You just said what I was just about to say, that these people have no shame. They absolutely get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. The chocolate is around their mouth. The crumbs is on their fingers. The crumbs are on the table, and they say, "What cookie?" And they won't go away and rehabilitate themselves and come back to the political scene because they have no shame. But the other thing that they haven't been told, or they won't tell the truth about this Benghazi thing, is that it was a weapons depot, and it was transporting weapons from Benghazi to Syria. And I don't know what part the State Department had in it or the CIA had in it, but clearly it wasn't over a video like you say. And they went out and they trotted Susan Rice out onto the 5 morning talk shows to tell that lie. But here's the real kick in the pants, Tom.
And then Susan Rice gets a promotion.
But here's the real kick in the pants. Here's where you have it. This is the typical Democrat. You have it both ways. You get to eat your cake, and you get to have your cake and eat it too. Hillary's now coming out with the excuse on these speeches and this money they've made from foreign countries. Darn, if I only had them pesky emails that somebody got rid of, I could prove my innocence.
Yeah.
So they get rid of the smoking gun that would prove they was tied to it. Then they're going to turn around and pee down your boot and tell you it's raining by saying, well, if we just had them darn emails, we could prove that all this is on the up and up.
I know what.
I just don't.
It's incredible, isn't it, Frank? I mean, it's like watching a poorly written soap opera unfold in front of your eyes on a day-to-day basis.
Well, Tom, I know you've met these people in your life. Max met them, I've met them, but they will stand and whiz right down your boot and look you straight in the eye and tell you it's raining. And that's exactly what Hillary... Bill's smart. Bill's charismatic. People actually like Bill. Dick Morris says he can walk into a room, he can scope out the person that hates his guts, and by the time the conversation is over, they're best buddies. Hillary has no such charisma.
No.
And this woman is a devious, stab you in the back, take no prisoners type person. And she is totally, she's just totally without morals.
No, there's no question. And I think Obama and Bill Clinton have the same level of integrity, which is none. But those two, I said in the earlier segment, Frank, and you maybe heard me, I said those two got where they're at because they had a general charisma, a likability factor that Hillary is devoid of. And that's why I hope that they don't knock her out of this race too early, because I think we can beat her like the proverbial rented mule.
Well, Ed Klein has a book out and says that the Obamas call, or the Clintons call Obama an amateur.
That was the name of his book, wasn't it, Frank?
And the Obamas call Clinton opportunists. And the sad part of it is they're both right. They're both right on the money about the other one. And the media just doesn't report that whatsoever.
No, and Ed Klein wrote a good book called The Amateur. Came from a comment that Bill Clinton made when he was trying to persuade Hillary to challenge him in a primary back in 2012, which didn't happen. But other things that came out of that book was that Michelle and Valerie Jarrett used to sit around at night, have a glass of wine, and laugh and joke about the Hildebeest.
Yeah. Well, supposedly the way...
that was their name for Hillary Clinton, the Hildebeest.
The way Ed Klein describes it is Obama makes up his mind that he's going to do something, and then he comes down in the morning for breakfast. Valerie Jarrett and Michelle get together, powwow, and then tell him what he's really going to decide.
All right, Frank, you stay on the line. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, I want to discuss this Ed Fallon thing a little bit more, because I don't think a lot of people know all the facts, because I don't think it's been anywhere but in the Register. I don't think it's been on TV or anything. So for those people who don't read the Register, which is too many nowadays.
Majority.
I want to explain that. So you hang on, Frank. Tom, you hang on. I'll hang on. You keep listening. We'll be back here on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us. to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome back. 22 minutes for the top of the hour Salem Radio Network News. And then after that, it's Tom Coates' favorite radio talk show host in the whole world. Himself. No, it's Steve Deace, live from 3 to 5.
Well, actually, I'm warming back up to Steve. I think that he's a very smart guy. Always has been smart.
Well, as soon as you get warmed up to him, he'll do something to piss you off. Just know that. He just has a way of doing that. But no matter what, he's back live in Afternoon Drive. And if you're still waiting for the signal to upgrade, that'll happen here in a few weeks. But we wanted to get Steve on right away. So he's on from 3 to 5. Now, if you're wondering what happened to my friend Michael Mudloff, he's at high noon now. He's at what we call the Paul Harvey position. High noon here on 99.3 The Truth.
He's the Gary Cooper, is he?
He's the Gary Cooper. High noon. That's right. Boy, we're showing our age now, aren't we? Speaking of old men, how you doing, Frank?
Hey, did Steve Deace release his poll that his buddy had taken that was naming the top 3 people that people were putting on their list for the Republican?
He's doing that right now on his show, so it should be available on Facebook and other media. His website probably after 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So now let's talk about Ed Fallon for a minute. First of all, as unbiasedly as you can, Frank, if that's even possible, as a reporter, an unbiased reporter. Tell us what the deal is with Ed Fallon, the latest thing.
Well, to tell you the truth, I didn't hear all the details. I just caught it on Facebook. But apparently he was arrested at the governor's office. Now, in interest of disclosure, after meeting Ben Carson on Saturday, met a couple people at the Ben Carson meet and greet, and they tried to get me into the Lincoln Center down at the dinner Saturday night. So I went down there and see if they had some extra tickets or whatever. But I actually was within spitting distance of Governor Terry Branstad, and I didn't walk over to him and shake his hand because I didn't see no bodyguards or nothing, but I didn't want to just walk over, so I politely said hello to him. He said hello back, and funny enough, I didn't get arrested. But Ed Fallon shows up at the governor's place, and all of a sudden he's in jail. Do you know the details, Tom?
Oh, I know what I read in the paper, and like we talked about, I've known Ed for years. I'm not saying we're bosom buddies, but I had worked with him a little bit when he was up in the Capitol. I was on his show back a few years ago when we were fighting the casinos in Warren County.
You were on the same side then, right?
Yeah, that's the only side that's the only side of an issue I could ever get on the same side. He thinks that gambling is a unfair tax on the poor, and I don't disagree with that assessment. So I know Ed a little bit. I know what I read in the paper. I'm a minority that it still takes the print section, the print edition of the newspaper.
You and me both.
You didn't read the story, Frank?
The pipeline.
Yeah, I've been getting these emails daily about his endless walk. He did this 1,000-mile or 3,000-mile trek across the country for global warming, and now he's been weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks walking the pipeline. So now what he does is he goes and he's grabbed onto this thing that actually appeals to some people with some reason on the eminent domain.
Yeah.
And he was demanding to have an audience. Now, the difference between well, there's a lot of difference between you and Ed. But the difference between you walked up as a gentleman, you just said hi, you shook hands perhaps with Terry, and he was polite.
Right.
You didn't sit there, camp out, and demand to have an audience. Now, they sent, according to the paper, they sent an emissary, one of Branstad's aides, down to try to mollify this individual, Ed Fallon. And he wouldn't be mollified. He demanded a private meeting with Branstad. He said this whole thing about the saving the planet and eminent domain was so important that only he could talk to Terry Branstad himself. Well, I don't even know if Branstad was there, but when closing time came, Ed was going to, I suppose knowing Ed, he was going to camp there overnight and wait till the next morning.
He was going to have a 99% sit-in or takeover or whatever.
Yeah.
But, hey, I don't know, Tom, if you ever heard the finale of that grand 3,000-mile march across the country.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently they got into a fight as they got, over there close to D.C., arguing about who was going to speak and who wasn't going to speak. And apparently Ed went off on his own and marched on his own because there was such a rift in the camp. When they got over there to D.C.,
it was such a throng that he was
out the red carpet.
Well, it was a throng that he was leading, wasn't it, Frank? I mean, it was probably an army of 6 or something.
At the end.
Okay, maybe there's some late jumpers in there, but initially
I
it was.
I was thinking it was going to be one of them Rosie Ruiz deals at the Boston Marathon, where a bunch of people would jump in at the end and say, "Oh yeah, we came 3,000 miles." But
right.
I think they thought that they was going to roll open the federal Capitol with the red carpet and say, "What can we do for you, wise one that has marched 3,000 miles across the country?" And basically, they thought they was going to get welcomed with open arms, and it would just turned out to be such a dud and such a fizzle. So he came back to Iowa, and he was like a rebel without a cause. I said to him the last time he sat in on Doc and Lefty, he come in, and I said, "Ed, you're a rebel without a cause." He says, "Oh, no, I got lots of causes."
Well, and he's hooked into this far-left bunch here in town. They're typified. Mac, do you know the group called CCI?
Yes.
And this is a group...
Concerned Citizens of Iowa.
Yeah, they took over a legitimate group that was doing some good on some housing and some things we used to participate in.
Yeah.
And they just went in and took them over.
Yeah.
And this other group used to have me come in and talk, and we do counseling, and when they took over, they said, "No, we're not interested in any of that anymore." Said, "You want to have a booth, you'll pay us $500, and otherwise you're no longer welcome." Well, I read that pretty quick and got the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah.
But anytime you go and the thing we went to, Mac, up there in Waukee, where the 9 candidates were with the Iowa Faith
Freedom Foundation.
Yeah. The same kind of CCI knotheads were out there. Rick Smith, that writes all the time to City View and the Des Moines Register, and his moron minions were out there protesting. And almost any time I've gone to any kind of a political function, these idiots are out there with their signs and their this and their that. And so Ed Fallon is kind of the probably the best known face of that group. And I suspect, Frank, that he actually wanted to get the press. Probably wants even more than he got, but he wanted the press to. When he was arrested, he was hoping that would show up probably on all the TV stations and the paper, and he was disappointed. But this is what I think the objective was, not to really meet Branstad, but to get some press and end up getting arrested.
Well, Tom, we need to be a little bit more politically correct. That would be Mr. and Mrs. Knothead. Let's at least be polite here.
Well, what I don't understand is that, and I like Ed. Ed, I would tell you that Ed is either a friend of mine or he's a high-level acquaintance. Ed never did me anything wrong. Ed was on this station for a long time, always treated me right. But why go to the governor's office, demand an audience? You know you're not going to get it, so then you get arrested. That's not a rhetorical question, Frank. Why?
Well,
just for the press?
It's all about civil protest. He's all about trying to get the media's attention, but the sad part of it is the media doesn't pay much mind. It's this story's kind of a fizzle. So I suppose he went in there thinking, boy, this is going to bring a lot of attention to the movement. We're just going to shoot down this pipeline and eminent domain and the whole 9 yards. I seen a picture of him on Facebook the other day where he was standing next to a truckload of pipes and was saying that somebody had ordered a bunch of pipe that they wasn't saying. So he's thinking that this pipeline's all but done, until Obama officially signs it. So, it's somebody doo-dooed in Ed's oatmeal, and I think that's what spurred him on to, go demand this sit-in with Terry Branstad.
All right, when we come back, I want to get Frank's opinion on Dr. Ben Carson. We both met him last week, and kind of get a rundown on the representatives or the Republicans that are running for president. It's the local angle here in Mac's World, live with Tom Coates on 99.3 The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 10 minutes for the top of the hour. Salem Radio Network News at 3. And then at 3:03, it's the Steve Deace back live in Afternoon Drive here in Des Moines, Iowa. I just looked up something, and Ed Fallon is still in police custody, will not likely be released until sometime late Tuesday or Wednesday. He has a jail support team monitoring the situation and attending to all his needs. Thanks for your support, and stay tuned.
Really? Now, the paper had said he had gotten bailed out and was out quickly, and obviously this is not much of a thing. He could be easily bailed out. Or just release on. He must want to stay in that jail cell, Mac.
Yeah, I think
he thinks that he's going to do his pipeline walk from jail, and that the media is going to pay more attention to this man. This is just ridiculous. Here, this guy that is being persecuted because he wants to save the planet and confront this evil Republican governor, and he's being held in jail without bond, and is likely to be a political prisoner. This is nonsense. This is just political theater, and it's the cheapest kind you can imagine.
Do you think he's setting himself up for another run for governor?
Oh, if he
I opposed the governor here, I opposed the governor there, I went to jail for what I believed in.
Well, for a couple things. Branstad's not going to run for re-election. But even against anybody, Ed Fallon is a joke. I mean, except for the very far left fringe that he associates with, and apparently he gets enough feedback from them that he has delusions of grandeur that thinks he carries a giant club where he's carrying a little twig.
Well, we've given him enough attention. Frank's on the phone. Frank, you met Ben Carson. What do you think of him?
Well, listening to Steve Dace yesterday, he said that there's going to be some surprises on this top three thing. There's some people that took some first-place votes over Ted Cruz, and I think it may be Ben Carson. But, he was asking for the top three. I would just say Iowa so far would be Cruz, Walker, and Carson. Ben is a humble, sincere, soft-spoken guy. He just seems to be the kind of guy that he would be somebody who would be able to delegate responsibilities to people if he doesn't personally know something. I think he's a smart enough guy to get smart people in there and delegate responsibilities to them. If he isn't president, he would be a fine, VP pick for someone. But met him on Saturday, and he was. I've heard good things of him, and he didn't say anything or do anything that made me think any different of what I had heard.
It was interesting because he took questions from the group, and it wasn't a limited question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he kept answering questions until time was up. Mm-hmm. And one lady said, "How can we help you win?" And guess what his answer was? Well, you'd think probably send money, put up a poster in your front yard, vote for me. No, his answer was pray for me.
Well, I like Ben Carson, and I've heard him. I was at the Polk County dinner last year. He spoke very well. I mean, I've watched him on TV interviews. I love his backstory, but that's not who I'm going to handicap in the top three, Frank. I'm going to give you my handicap, and not necessarily out of Iowa, because Iowa can be, it doesn't necessarily do it. But the three that I think bear watching at this point, now some people would say Jeb Bush up there. I think Bush is going to fade. Some people would say Cruz or Rand Paul. No. I think the three to watch at this point to me are Scott Walker, Marco Rubio, and Bobby Jindal. Now, I'll make that prediction now. Let's see if, when we get to New Hampshire and South Carolina, if those guys aren't in at least the top five. I would give you those
three. Very
three.
Impressive reports about Jindal. Steve Dace had a guy on yesterday that was handicapping the thing, and he was talking about his private pollsters, and he said there's a couple of big names that just absolutely crashed and burned. So the guy speculated it might be Rand Paul and Jeb Bush. But he said that I believe he was alleging that Ted Cruz has done extremely well. Mm-hmm. But Ben Carson apparently was on a lot more people's top. He didn't show up so much on the second and third, but he outdone Ted Cruz on a lot of first-place votes, first place on your top three list.
Well, and I understand. Here's Carly Fiorina, to me, Fiorina is in the same category as Ben Carson, although I like Ben Carson and his story much better than I do Carly. Carly is making some real waves. She's getting some followers. I think if you get close to her, I think you're going to find she's not much more likable than perhaps even Hillary that we were talking about.
Somebody told me that. They met her on Saturday and told me that.
Yeah, but I think both of them have got a problem. I do think, we saw Herman Cain come out a few years ago, and I don't want to say that Ben Carson's like Herman Cain. I don't think he's got the skeletons in the closet or the women hidden back there that he did. But I think not ever holding political office. Now, he says it's an advantage. I don't think so. I think that because they don't know how to handle themselves out on the stump when it comes right down to it, they're not seasoned. They're stepping. They're rookies, and even Donald Trump, if he announces, is going to have some of the same issues. Although Trump's used to dealing in the public spotlight more than the other two. I do think that all those people that have not held political office, and now instead of starting at, Mac mentioned dog catcher or the city council or even a state office, they're going into the highest, most magnified office in the world. And they're coming at them with media that is anything but friendly. If they look like they're a competitor at all, I don't think they'll know how to handle it.
Well, I think there's one thing you and I and Mac would all agree on, is I think the field of Republican candidates they got this time, nobody's going to be able to get laughed off the stage. I don't think they're going to be able to play the tricks they played on the last field in 2012. And I just think that there's too many serious people up there and serious good people up there that it's going to be a legitimate debate with strong issues, and I don't think they're going to be able to mock and ridicule anybody off the stage.
Well, they're going to try. They're trying with Jeb Bush right now because the liberal media, I think, mistakenly thinks that he's their biggest threat, so they're trying to tar him right now.
Sure. And
all right, Frank.
They'll take them on one at a time, whoever is the, whack-a-mole. Who's ever in the lead, they'll, try to take that guy or that gal out.
Right. All right, Frank, appreciate you being on the phone, being on the radio today. Frank and I will have Pastor Spencer from the First Open Bible Church tomorrow here on the program. Tom, thanks for being here. Appreciate it very much. For those of you folks at home, thank you for listening. Steve Deace is next. And as always, I ask you today to think of somebody you need to forgive. Somebody you've carried a resentment with for a very, very long time. And maybe it's not top of mind awareness. Maybe when their name comes up, you bristle a little bit. Or when you drive by someplace that reminds you of them, you bristle a little bit. Well, that's not good for your heart. It's not good for your soul. It's not like Christ. So tonight I ask you to get down on your knees or however you pray and forgive that person. Because as you forgive them, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you in church.